The plateau stretches endless beneath a sky the color of old iron. August heat presses down on the Western Seer campaign, but the man on horseback does not seem to notice. He is approximately 65 years old, though no one knows for certain. His face is weathered like the steppe itself, creased by decades of wind and war. Around him, an army of thousands waits in disciplined silence, organized in perfect units of 10, 100, 1,000. They are the most feared military force on earth. The wind carries the scent of dust and horses, that particular aroma of an army on the move. The standards flutter, each one bearing the symbol of a different conquered nation, now absorbed into the great machine of empire. From this vantage point, the army resembles a living organism, breathing in unison, waiting for the signal from its mind. He sways slightly in the saddle. Something is wrong. His generals notice but say nothing. You do not question the universal ruler, the man who turned scattered tribes into an empire that stretches from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. The man who holds more territory than any conqueror in human history. The closest general, Subutai, now elderly himself but still sharp as a blade, shifts his horse closer. His eyes, narrowed against the sun and age, study his Khan with the careful attention of a man who has served for 4 decades. He sees the slight pallor beneath the weathered tan, the way the fingers grip the reins just a fraction tighter than necessary. But he waits. Patience has always been their greatest weapon. Blood seeps through fabric somewhere beneath his armor. Whether from a fall, a wound, or some internal failing, no one will ever know with certainty. What matters is this. The boy who was left to starve on the steppe, the child whose own clan abandoned him to die, the orphan who ate roots and rats to survive, is about to vanish from the world he remade, and he will make certain that even in death, no one can claim power over him. His burial site will be hidden so thoroughly that 8 centuries later it remains undiscovered. The orders have already been given. Keep the death secret, finish the campaign, destroy the Western Xia capital in retaliation for their resistance. Kill anyone who sees the funeral procession. The earth will swallow all evidence of where the universal ruler lies. Even now, as life ebbs, he thinks in terms of strategy. Death is simply another enemy to outmaneuver. If his enemies know the moment of his passing, they will strike during the vulnerable transition of power. If his own people panic, the empire could fragment. Everything he built could dissolve like morning frost. No. He will control even this, his final exit from the world stage. But before we reach that moment, before we understand what it cost to transform an abandoned child into the architect of the largest contiguous land empire ever created, we must go back to the Khenti Mountains, to a time before empires, before conquest, before the name Genghis Khan existed. Back to a boy named Temüjin who learned the most important lesson of his life at 9 years old. The world has no mercy for the weak, and loyalty is the only currency that matters. Before we continue, I want to ask something of you. If you are finding value in this story, if the journey of this abandoned child speaks to something in you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows me to keep creating these deep explorations of history's most complex figures, and I am genuinely curious, where in the world are you watching from today? Drop a comment and let me know. I read every single one. The year is approximately 1162, though even this is uncertain. The Mongolian steppe does not keep careful records. Time is measured in seasons, in the births of foals, in the movements of tribes across grasslands that seem to have no end. In the Khenti Mountains, near a peak called Burkhan Khaldun, a woman named Holun gives birth to a son. The child emerges clutching a blood clot in his fist, an omen that the shamans interpret with grave nods. This one will spill blood. The gur fills with smoke from the central fire. The shamans, dressed in layers of furs, decorated with bones and feathers, circle the newborn, chanting in voices that seem to come from deep within the earth itself. They shake rattles made from the skulls of small animals. The sound mingles with Holand's exhausted breathing, with the crackle of fire, with the endless wind that never stops on the steppe. Outside, the spring has been hard. Late snows killed many of the newborn foals. Several families lost children to fever. The world is always testing, always culling the weak. But this child, they say, this one has the mark. Whether blessing or curse, only time will tell. His father, Yesugei, is a minor chieftain of the Borjigin clan. Not powerful, not wealthy, but respected enough. A capable warrior in a world where capability with bow and blade determines whether your family eats or starves. Yesugei names the boy Temüjin, after a Tatar warrior he has recently captured. It is a name that means iron worker, a name that carries no prophecy of empire. Yesugei stands outside the ger, receiving congratulations from the other men. They pass around leather bags of airag, the fermented mare's milk that is the drink of celebration and sorrow alike. He accepts their words with the stoic pride of a steppe warrior. A son is wealth, a future warrior, a guarantee that the line continues. But he does not smile. Joy is a weakness in a world where every neighboring clan might become tomorrow's enemy. Holand herself is a prize of war. Yesugei stole her from a Merkid warrior during her wedding procession, a common practice among the steppe tribes. She fought him with fists and fury, but eventually adapted to her new reality, as women of the steppe must. She will prove stronger than anyone imagines. In the years to come, she will remember that wedding procession often, the feel of the silk dress her mother had made, the songs of her relatives, the future she had imagined. Then the thunder of hooves, the screams, the Merkid warrior who was supposed to be her husband, fighting desperately against Yesugei and his brothers. She remembers being thrown across a saddle like a sack of grain, the rough hands, the laughter of the raiders. She remembers deciding, somewhere during that brutal ride, that she would not break, that she would survive and make something of this new life, even if it was not the life she chose. The world Temüjin enters is one of constant motion and casual violence. The Mongol tribes, scattered across the steppe, war against each other in endless cycles of raid and revenge. Blood feuds stretch back generations. Alliances shift like the grass in wind. To the south, the powerful Jin dynasty controls northern China, playing Mongol tribes against each other, ensuring they remain too divided to threaten Chinese borders. To the west, the Karaite and Naiman tribes command larger territories and more warriors. The Mongols are minor players in a brutal game. Temujin's childhood is that of any nomadic boy. He learns to ride before he can walk properly. By age 5, he handles a bow designed for children, shooting at targets and small game. His father teaches him the crucial skills: how to read weather in the sky, how to find water in drought, how to survive a winter that can kill an unprepared family in a single night. The steppe is a teacher that accepts no failures. The lessons are harsh and practical. Yesugei does not coddle his sons. When Temüjin is 4 and falls from his horse, splitting his lip on a rock, his father tells him to get back on. When he misses shot after shot with his small bow, frustrated to tears, Yesugei simply says, "The deer does not care about your feelings. Improve or starve." But there are moments of grace too. Yesugei teaching him to read the stars, pointing out the constellations that guide travelers across the featureless grasslands, showing him how to listen to the wind, how different sounds mean different weather approaching. how to smell water from miles away when the herds are thirsty, how to find the plants that heal and avoid the ones that kill. The steppe gives everything you need. Yasuge tells him one evening as they watch the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. But it does not give freely. You must be worthy of survival. But there is also tenderness. Hoyland sings to her children old songs that carry the memory of ancestors. She teaches Temüjin and his brothers Hasar, Hachiun, and Temüge to care for each other. She tells them that family loyalty is everything, that blood bonds cannot be broken. She does not yet know how brutally this lesson will be tested. On cold nights, when the wind howls like wolves around the Gur, she gathers the children close and tells stories. Tales of the ancient ancestor, the blue wolf who mated with a doe from whom all Mongols descend. Stories of heroes who faced impossible odds and triumphed through cleverness and courage. Her voice is soft but strong, and the children listen with wide eyes, watching shadows dance on the felt walls. Remember, she tells them, her arms around Temüjin and Hasar. The world will try to separate you. It will offer you reasons to betray each other. But brothers who stand together cannot be broken. Brothers who divide will fall. Temüjin absorbs these words, stores them away. He does not yet know how complicated brotherhood will become. Temüjin has half-brothers as well, Begta and Belgute, sons of Yasuge's other wife. The relationship between the boys is complicated by hierarchy and pride, by the question of who will inherit their father's position. In this world, succession is never guaranteed. Leadership must be earned through strength and cunning. Begta is 2 years older than Temüjin, taller, stronger at this age. He knows it and uses it, taking the better portions of food, claiming the best horses for practice, asserting dominance in the casual cruelties of childhood. Belgute is younger and follows his brother's lead, though with less enthusiasm. The household exists in constant low-level tension, 2 mothers competing through their sons, the boys aware that only one can inherit leadership. When Temüjin is approximately 9 years old, Yasuge makes a decision that will alter the trajectory of his son's life. He takes the boy on a journey to the Ongirat tribe, seeking a suitable bride. This is standard practice. Betroth children young to secure alliances between clans. Along the way, they stop at various camps, and Yasuge presents his son to potential fathers-in-law with a practiced speech about the boy's lineage and promise. They ride for days across terrain that all looks the same to Temüjin's young eyes. Endless grass, distant mountains, the occasional river cutting through the plains. Yasuge uses the journey as a teaching opportunity, pointing out landmarks, explaining which clans control which territories, recounting the feuds and alliances that govern steppe politics. A wife is not just a woman, Yasuge explains as they ride. She is an alliance, her father's warriors, her brother's loyalty, her clan's herds. When you choose a bride, you choose carefully. Pretty face means nothing if her father is weak or her clan is untrustworthy. At one camp, they meet a man named De Sechen, who has a daughter named Berta. She is strong-featured and intelligent, approximately 1 year older than Temüjin. When De Sechen looks at the boy, he sees something that pleases him. Perhaps capability, perhaps simply good bloodlines. He agrees to the betrothal. Yasuge, satisfied, leaves Temüjin with the Ongirat to begin learning the ways of his future wife's clan, as is customary. Before he leaves, Yasuge pulls Temüjin aside. They stand together watching the horses graze, father and son having one of their last conversations. "You will stay here and learn their ways," Yasuge says. "Watch everything. How they organize their camps, how they settle disputes, how they treat their women and children. Every clan has something to teach. Be respectful, but do not forget who you are. You are Borjigin. You are my son. Temüjin nods, trying to look brave, but inside he feels small and uncertain. This is the first time he will be separated from his family, living among strangers. Yesugei seems to sense this. He places a hand on the boy's shoulder, a rare gesture of affection. You will be fine. You have the mark. I saw it the day you were born. You are meant for something, I do not know what, but something. The arrangement is settled. Temüjin will remain for a time, then return home before the marriage is formalized years later. Everything is proceeding according to the ancient patterns. Temüjin spends his days with the Ongirat, learning their customs, working with their herds, and occasionally seeing Berta. She is not like the girls he knows. She speaks her mind directly, helps with men's work without complaint, and seems entirely unimpressed by his status as a chieftain's son. Once, when he is struggling to control a particularly stubborn horse, she laughs at him, then shows him the proper technique. He is humiliated and intrigued in equal measure. You Borjigin think you know everything, she says, grinning. But you do not know how to talk to horses. You demand, you should ask. Horses do not understand asking, he retorts. Then you do not understand horses, she replies, and walks away, leaving him frustrated and strangely impressed. But on his journey home, Yesugei encounters a group of Tatars. The Tatars are longtime enemies of his clan, participants in blood feuds that stretch back decades. These particular Tatars recognize Yesugei, but they are hosting a feast, and the laws of hospitality are sacred on the steppe. They invite him to eat. Yesugei, perhaps tired from travel, perhaps believing that food sharing creates temporary truce, accepts. He drinks erag, fermented mare's milk. He eats meat. And he does not notice, or notices too late, that something is wrong. The Tatars have poisoned him. Revenge for old grievances, the kind of revenge that the steppe considers justified. One of the Tatars, an older man whose brother died by Yesugei's hand 3 years prior, watches him eat with cold satisfaction. The poison is subtle, mixed into the erag where the fermented taste masks the bitterness. By the time Yesugei realizes what he has consumed, he is already miles from the Tatar camp, and the poison is spreading through his blood like ice water. Yesugei realizes what has happened only after he has left their camp. The poison works through him as he rides. He makes it home, but barely. He collapses in his own jur, the felt tent that has sheltered his family. Holen tends to him, but there is nothing to be done. The shamans chant and burn offerings, but the poison is already destroying him from within. She brings him water, but he cannot keep it down. She holds his hand and feels it growing cold. The shamans burn herbs that fill the jir with bitter smoke, chanting prayers to ancestors and spirits, but their magic cannot touch poison that has already soaked into every part of him. Yesugei's breathing becomes labored. His skin takes on a greyish hue. He tries to speak, to give final instructions, but the words come out garbled. Holen leans close, her ear near his lips, trying to understand. Temüjin, he manages to say. Bring. Temüjin. Before he dies, Yesugei asks that someone retrieve Temüjin from the Ongirat. He wants to see his eldest son one final time. But there is no time. Yesugei dies in agony, his body convulsing, his strength abandoning him. A warrior's death by enemy blade is honorable. Death by poison, unable to fight back, is humiliation. Hoelun washes his body herself, refusing help. She cleans the blood and vomit, dresses him in his best clothing, prepares him for the sky burial that is their custom. Her hands do not shake. Her eyes remain dry. Grief is a luxury she cannot afford. She has children to protect, and she already knows what is coming. Temüjin is still with the Ongirat when he learns his father is dead. He returns to find his mother in mourning, his siblings frightened, and the clan that his father led preparing to abandon them. The messenger arrives while Temüjin is practicing archery with some of the Ongirat boys. The man dismounts, his face grave, and asks to speak privately. In that moment, before any words are spoken, Temüjin knows. He feels it like a physical blow, a sudden absence in the world. "Your father is dead," the messenger says. "Poisoned by Tatars, your mother asks that you return immediately." The journey back is a blur. Temüjin rides hard, changing horses when they tire, barely stopping to eat or sleep. His mind races faster than the horses. What will happen to the family? Who will lead? Will the clan hold together? He is 9 years old, and suddenly the world has become infinitely more dangerous. What happens next will define everything that follows. The Taichiud clan, relatives of Yasuge, make a calculation. Hoelun is a widow with young children. Bekta is technically older than Temüjin, but both boys are too young to lead. The family has no wealth to speak of, no significant herds, no powerful allies. Supporting them would be a burden with no benefit. The elders gather in Targutai Kiriltuk's ger to discuss the matter. The fire burns low as they debate. Some argue for keeping the family, citing bonds of kinship and honor. Others, more practical, point out that resources are scarce, that every mouth to feed matters, that Yasuge's family brings nothing of value. "We owe them nothing," Targutai says, finally. "Yasuge is dead. His sons are children. The woman is not our concern. We move on." One old warrior, a friend of Yasuge's, protests. "This is not the way. We do not abandon family." Targutai's eyes are cold. "We are not abandoning family. We are choosing survival. If you want to stay with them, you are welcome to starve together." The old warrior falls silent. The decision is made. Targutai Kiriltuk, the Taichiud chief, decides the family is not worth keeping. When the clan prepares to move to summer pastures, following the grass that feeds their herds, they leave Hoelun and her children behind. Deliberately, consciously, they pack their gers, load their carts, mount their horses, and ride away. Hoelun sees what is happening. She grabs the clan's spirit banner, the sacred pole that represents tribal unity, and rides after them. She shouts at them, reminds them of their obligations, of the bonds of kinship. Some of the Taichiud look ashamed, but no one stops. Targutai makes it clear the family is on its own. She rides alongside the moving column, the spirit banner held high, her voice carrying across the morning air.
"You abandon your kin. You break the ancient bonds. The ancestors curse you for this betrayal." Some of the women look away. Some of the men stare straight ahead. A few of the younger warriors seem troubled, but none act. They follow their chief, and their chief has decided. Targutai finally rides up beside her. "Give me the banner, woman. It is not yours to carry. It represents our people,"
she says fiercely, "and you are no longer our people." He tears it from her hands roughly, nearly unseating her from the horse. She watches as he rides back to the front of the column, the sacred banner now in the hands of those who abandoned her children. Hoelun returns to her children with nothing but rage and determination. She has been abandoned in the cruelest way possible, left to watch her children starve on the steppe. In any reasonable calculation, they should die. A woman alone with young children, no herds, no protection, no allies. The steppe swallows such people without trace. The children watch her return, their faces showing the comprehension of disaster. Temüjin, at 9, understands exactly what this means. Hassa, only a year younger, begins to cry. The younger ones simply look frightened and confused. Holen dismounts and gathers them together. Her face is set like stone, but her voice is steady. "Listen to me, all of you. They have left us to die. They expect us to die. We will not die. Do you understand? We will survive. We will remember what they have done, and someday they will answer for it." Well, but Holen refuses. She gathers her children and tells them they will survive. They move to the Onon River, where fish can be caught. They dig for wild onions and garlic. They shoot marmots and birds with makeshift bows. They eat berries, roots, anything that can be chewed and swallowed. Temüjin and Hassa become skilled at catching fish with their hands, wading into cold water and grabbing at movements in the murk. The first weeks are the hardest. They have almost nothing. A few horses that are too old or weak for the clan to bother taking. Some minimal supplies. No gur, so they construct a rough shelter from branches and hides. The work is constant and exhausting. Holen shows them how to dig for roots, how to identify edible plants from poisonous ones. "This one," she says, holding up a root, "will fill your belly but give you terrible pain. This one, or another root, has less substance but is safe. Remember, the difference is survival." They set snares for small animals using techniques passed down through generations. Temüjin learns to be patient, to check the snares at dawn and dusk, to reset them carefully. When they catch a marmot, it is a feast. When the snares are empty for days, they go hungry. It is not the life of nobles. It is the life of the desperate poor, the outcasts, the ones the steppe has rejected. Temüjin learns what it means to be hungry, truly hungry, so hungry that you fight your siblings over scraps. He learns that survival requires ruthlessness, that sentiment is a luxury. There are nights when Temüjin lies awake, his stomach cramping with hunger, listening to his younger brothers whimper in their sleep. Holen pretends to sleep, but he knows she is awake too, worrying, planning, trying to figure out how to keep them all alive until tomorrow. He makes a promise to himself in those dark hours. "If I survive this, I will never be powerless again. I will never depend on the mercy of others. I will never be abandoned." The years between ages 9 and 15 are a crucible. The family survives, but barely. They develop hierarchies of their own. Temüjin and Hassa do most of the hunting. Holen manages the camp. The younger siblings help as they can. Begter, the half-brother, is older and stronger than Temüjin, and sometimes claims more than his share. Tension builds. Food is scarce. Pride is wounded. One day, Temüjin and Hassa return from fishing to find that Begter has taken a bird they shot and a fish they caught. It is not the first time. Begter believes he is entitled to take what he wants, that his seniority gives him rights. Temüjin's hands clench into fists. "That was our catch. We spent all morning fishing." Begter, already eating the fish, shrugs. "I am older.
I need more food." "You need to learn respect," Hassa says, his voice tight with anger. Begter stands, taller than both of them, and smiles coldly. "Make me," Holen intervenes, tries to stop the brewing conflict. She quotes an old proverb, "When brothers fight, the enemy benefits." She reminds them that they have no one but each other, that they must remain united against a hostile world.
"We have enemies everywhere," she says, stepping between them. "The Taichiud, the Tatars, the cold, the hunger. We cannot afford to fight each other. Begter, share the food. Temüjin, Hasar, remember what I taught you about brotherhood. But the damage is done. The resentment continues to build, incident after incident, each one small but cumulative. But Temüjin is finished accepting Bekta's dominance. He and Hasar take their bows and find Bekta sitting on a hillside, watching the horses. They approach from different angles. Bekta sees them coming with arrows nocked. He knows what is about to happen. He does not run. Instead, he says something extraordinary. Do not kill me in front of our mother. Do not destroy her by taking her eldest son. There is a long moment where time seems to stop. Bekta sits calmly, looking at his half-brothers with something like sadness. I knew this would come, he says quietly. You think I have not seen how you look at me? But I am your brother. Whatever you think of me, I am your brother. Temujin's bow does not waver. You took from us, again and again. You showed no brotherhood. I showed what the world showed us, Bekta replies. The strong take from the weak. Is that not what you learned when the clan left us? Then you are weak now, Hasar says, his arrow also aimed at Bekta's chest. Bekta nods slowly. Yes, I am weak now, but please, not in front of mother. At least give me that dignity. Temüjin shoots him anyway. Hasar shoots as well. Bekta dies on the hillside, killed by his own brothers over food and pride. The arrows strike almost simultaneously. Bekta jerks backward, then slumps forward. He does not cry out. The silence is absolute except for the wind and the nervous sounds of the horses nearby. Temüjin walks up to the body, his heart pounding. This is the first person he has killed. The first, but he already knows it will not be the last. He feels no regret, only a cold certainty that this was necessary. When Holen learns what happened, she is furious. She calls Temüjin a monster, compares him to predatory animals that devour their own kind. She mourns Bekta with genuine grief. But Temüjin has made a calculation. Better to be alive and condemned than dead and praised. Bekta was a competitor for leadership, a threat to his survival. Eliminating him was rational. You are like the wild dogs that tear apart their own pack, she screams at him. You are like the tiger that devours its cubs. I did not raise you to be a murderer. Temüjin stands silent under her fury, his face expressionless. Hasar looks ashamed, but Temüjin shows nothing. He took from us, Temüjin finally says, his voice flat. He showed no loyalty. We are not strong enough to carry someone who steals from us. He was your brother. He was a threat. Holen slaps him, hard enough to snap his head to the side. He does not react, does not raise a hand to his burning cheek. He simply looks at her with eyes that seem older than his years. You will regret this, she says, her voice breaking. Someday you will understand what you have done. But he never does. It is also a signal of what kind of leader Temüjin will become. One who does not tolerate rivals, who eliminates threats before they grow, who values survival over sentiment. News of Bekta's death reaches the Taichiud. They decide Temüjin is dangerous, a potential future threat. Targutai sends warriors to capture him. They raid the camp, but Temüjin escapes into the forest. He hides for days, living like an animal until hunger and thirst force him into the open. He drinks from streams when he can find them, eats berries, and shoots a small bird with an arrow. At night, he shivers in the cold, hiding beneath fallen logs and in caves. He hears the search parties calling to each other, sees their torches in the darkness. Fear is a constant companion, but so is determination. The Taichiud find him and take him prisoner. They place a wooden collar around his neck, a kangwe that prevents him from using his hands to free himself. They parade him through their camps as a warning. This is what happens to those who challenge the natural order. The kangu is heavy, rough wood that chafes his neck raw within hours. He cannot lie down comfortably, cannot feed himself properly. They parade him like a circus animal, warriors pointing and laughing, children throwing stones. Tagutai himself comes to look at him one day. "The murderer," he says, "Yesugei's spawn. I should kill you now, but you are more useful alive. Let everyone see what happens to those who forget their place." Temüjin looks at him with pure hatred, saying nothing. But Temüjin is learning. He watches his captors, studies their routines, waits for opportunity. During a feast, when the Taichi-ud are drunk and distracted, he slips away from the guard assigned to watch him. He runs into the darkness with the kangwe still locked around his neck, heading for the river. His guard, a young warrior named Naya, has been drinking arag and dozes off. Temüjin moves slowly, quietly, careful not to make noise despite the awkward weight of the kange. Every step is calculated, every sound makes his heart race. When he reaches the edge of the camp, he starts running, awkward and stumbling with the kangwe throwing off his balance. Behind him, shouts of alarm begin to rise. He hides in the water, submerged except for his face, breathing quietly while search parties pass. A man named Sorghun Shira finds him there. Sorghun Shira is Taichi-ud, but he is also someone who recognizes capability when he sees it. He looks at the boy in the water, the boy who has survived abandonment and slavery, and makes a choice. He tells Temüjin to stay hidden and quiet, then reports to the searchers that he found nothing. They stand there for a long moment, Sorghun Shira on the bank, Temüjin in the cold water, up to his chin, the kangwe making it difficult to keep his balance. The searchers are close enough that Temüjin can hear their conversations. Sorghun Shira meets his eyes and gives the slightest shake of his head. Stay silent, stay still. When the search moves on, Sorghun Shira returns and breaks the kangi. He tells Temüjin to run, to return to his mother, and to remember this kindness. Temüjin never forgets. Years later, when he has power, he will reward Sorghun Shira's family beyond measure. Why? Temüjin asks as Sorghun Shira works at the lock. The older man pauses. Because I see something in you. Fire. I do not know what you will become, but it will be something. Also, I do not love Tagutai. He is a fool. Someday you might be useful. The kangwe breaks open. Temüjin's neck is bloody and raw. He rubs it gingerly. Go, Sorghun Shira says, and remember who freed you. I will remember, Temüjin promises. I remember everything. The escape confirms what Temüjin already suspects. Loyalty transcends tribal affiliation. Sorghun Shira betrayed his own clan to save a capable young man. This is the kind of loyalty that matters, chosen loyalty, earned loyalty, not the accident of birth. Temüjin returns to his family and they continue their marginal existence. But he is growing older, becoming a warrior. At approximately 16 years old, he decides it is time to claim his betrothed. He travels to the Ongirat and asks Dei Sechen to honor the arrangement made years ago. Dei Sechen, impressed that the boy has survived and matured, agrees. Berta joins Temüjin, bringing with her a dowry of a black sable coat, a garment of significant value. When Temüjin arrives at the Ongirat camp, he is no longer the boy who left. He is taller, harder, his face already showing the lines of hardship. Dei Sechen studies him carefully, seeing the changes. I heard you were dead, Dei Sechen says. I heard the Taichi-ud killed you. The Taichi-ud tried many things, Temüjin replies. I am not easy to kill. Dei Sechen smiles. No, I see that. Your father chose well when he chose you for my daughter." Berta appears, and she too has changed. She is a woman now, strong and capable. When she sees Temüjin, something flashes in her eyes. Recognition, perhaps, satisfaction. "So you survived?" she says. "Did you doubt it?" "Yes," she admits. "But I am pleased to be wrong." The marriage marks a turning point. Temüjin is no longer just a survivor, he is a man building a household. But he needs allies, real allies, if he is to reclaim his father's position and protect his family from future threats. He takes the sable coat and rides to find Togrul Khan, leader of the Karaite tribe. Togrul had been Yesugei's Anda, his sworn brother. By the codes of the steppe, this creates an obligation. Temüjin presents the coat as a gift and asks Togrul to act as his father figure and protector. The journey to Togrul's camp takes weeks. The Karaite control a vast territory, and their Khan is a powerful figure who commands tens of thousands of warriors. Temüjin is received in Togrul's Great Gur, a structure far larger and more luxurious than anything he has known. Togrul is perhaps 50 years old, his beard going grey, his eyes sharp and calculating. He sits on cushions while servants bring food and drink. Temüjin presents the sable coat with proper formality. "I am Temüjin, son of Yesugei, who was your sworn brother. I bring this gift and ask that you honor the bond you shared with my father. I ask that you act as my father figure and help me restore my family's position." Togrul examines the coat. It is fine work, valuable. He looks at the young man before him and makes his own calculation. Togrul, who controls a large and powerful confederation, sees potential benefit in supporting Yesugei's son. The boy is clearly resourceful, and a loyal client can be useful. He accepts the coat and the relationship. Suddenly, Temüjin has a powerful patron. "I remember your father well," Togrul says. "He was a good man and a capable warrior. I honor his memory by accepting you as my son. I will help you, Temüjin. Together, we will make you strong." Around the same time, Temüjin reconnects with a childhood friend named Jamuka. They had been close as boys, and now they renew their bond by declaring themselves Andas, blood brothers. Jamuka is already a rising leader among the Jadaran clan, charismatic and well-connected. Together, they represent a formidable partnership. They meet again at a spring gathering where several clans come together to trade and socialize. Jamuka recognizes Temüjin immediately and embraces him like a brother. "Temüjin, I heard you had died a dozen different ways. Yet here you stand. I am harder to kill than rumor suggests." They spend days together, reminiscing about childhood, discussing the state of the steppe, planning futures. The bond feels real, genuine. They perform the ceremony of blood brotherhood with witnesses, cutting their palms and mixing blood, swearing oaths of eternal loyalty. "We will be great together," Jamuka says. "Two brothers united, no one will stand against us." Temüjin believes him. For a while, for a brief period, life stabilizes. Temüjin has a wife, allies, and a growing reputation. He begins attracting followers, young men who see in him a capable leader who values competence over lineage. Then the Merkits strike. The Merkits have not forgotten that Yesugei stole Hoelun from one of their warriors decades ago. They have waited for the right moment to take revenge. They learn that Yesugei's son has recently married, and they see opportunity for perfect symmetry. Steal the wife, just as Yesugei stole Hoelun. They raid Temüjin's camp at dawn. Temüjin escapes on horseback, a decision that will haunt him. His mother and brothers escape as well, but Berta, hidden in a cart, is captured. The Merkits carry her away, and she becomes the prize of a Merkid warrior. The attack comes without warning. Temüjin wakes to screams and the thunder of hooves. His first instinct is to fight, but Holen grabs him. "Go! Run! They are too many!" He looks around wildly. "Bertha! I will find her. You must survive. If you die, we all die. Go!" It is the same calculation she made years ago when she saved her children from the Taichi Ud. Survival first, everything else second. Temüjin runs, hating himself for it, hearing the sounds of destruction behind him. When the sun rises and he cautiously returns, the camp is ransacked. Holen and his brothers are there, shaken but alive. Bertha is gone. Temüjin is faced with a crisis that tests everything he claims to value. He could accept the loss, take another wife, move on. Instead, he chooses to fight for her return, not because tradition demands it, but because Bertha is his, and no one takes what is his. "We get her back," he says flatly. Holen looks at him. "How?" "The Merkits are powerful. We are few." "I will find a way." He goes to Togrul and Jamukha and asks for help. This is the first real test of his alliances. Will they commit their warriors to rescue one woman? He finds Togrul first. "Father Khan, I ask for your help. The Merkits have taken my wife. They seek revenge for something my father did. I ask that you help me retrieve her." Togrul considers. "The Merkits are numerous. This will mean war." "Yes." "And if I help you, what do I gain?" "A son who owes you everything, a loyal ally who will never forget this debt." Togrul honors the relationship. He provides troops. Jamukha, bound by their brotherhood, does the same. Together, they assemble a force and strike the Merkits with coordinated precision. The raid is successful. Bertha is recovered, and the Merkits are scattered. The attack is planned carefully. Togrul provides 2 Tumans, 20,000 men. Jamukha brings his own forces. They surround the Merkit camp at night and strike at dawn, exactly as the Merkits struck Temüjin. The battle is brutal and swift. The Merkits, caught by surprise, break and run. Temüjin searches frantically through the chaos, calling Bertha's name. He finds her in a ger, guarded by a Merkid warrior who dies before he can raise his weapon. Bertha is there, her face showing the strain of her captivity. When she sees Temüjin, she breaks down sobbing, and he holds her, feeling relief and rage in equal measure. "I came for you," he says. "I will always come for you." But Bertha is pregnant. Whether the child is Temüjin's or the Merkid warriors, no one knows. When the boy is born, they name him Yochi, which means guest. The name itself is a question that will never be answered, a wound that will poison family relations for decades. The pregnancy becomes obvious within months. Bertha does not speak of it, and Temüjin does not ask. When Yochi is born, Temüjin holds the child and makes a decision. "He is my son," he declares to anyone who will listen. "My firstborn. Anyone who questions this answers to me." But the question lingers. Always. Temüjin accepts Yochi as his son, but the question of paternity follows the boy throughout his life. Temüjin's other sons, particularly Chagatai, will later openly challenge Yochi's legitimacy. The rescue that demonstrated Temüjin's loyalty and capability also introduced uncertainty into his own household. Nevertheless, the successful raid against the Merkits establishes Temüjin as a serious military leader. Warriors begin joining him not out of tribal obligation, but because he wins, because he rewards loyalty, because he represents something different from the old aristocratic order. His camp grows. He organizes his followers not by clan but by capability. He promotes men based on what they can do, not who their fathers were. This is revolutionary. The steppe has always been governed by blood hierarchy. Noble clans lead, commoner clans follow. Temüjin is building something else, a meritocracy bound by chosen loyalty. Among his early followers is a young man named Bo-Orchu. Temüjin first met him years earlier when thieves stole the family's horses, their most valuable possession. Temüjin tracked the thieves alone, and along the way encountered Bo-Orchu, who immediately offered to help recover the horses without asking for compensation. That kind of instant, unrewarded loyalty is what Temüjin values above all else. Bo-Orchu becomes one of his most trusted generals and remains loyal until death. Another early follower is Gelme, whose father, Sorghum Shira, saved Temüjin from the Taichi-ud. Gelme serves Temüjin from boyhood, and his loyalty is absolute. These are the nucleus of what will become the Mongol war machine, men chosen for competence and loyalty, not birth. But as Temüjin's influence grows, tension develops with Jamuka. They are both ambitious, both capable, and increasingly they represent different visions of how the steppe should be organized. Jamuka believes in the traditional system. Noble clans hold power, alliances are fluid, leadership is achieved through charisma and coalition building within the aristocratic class. He is charming, eloquent, skilled at navigating tribal politics. The differences emerge slowly. At gatherings, Jamuka speaks eloquently about tradition, about respecting the old ways, about the natural order of noble and common. Temüjin speaks about capability, about merit, about loyalty, transcending birth. "You threaten everything," Jamuka tells him one night when they are alone. "You promote commoners above their station. You disrespect the ancient hierarchies. This will lead to chaos." "The ancient hierarchies abandoned me to die," Temüjin replies. "I owe them nothing. I will build something better, or you will destroy everything trying." Temüjin believes in something harder and more radical. Loyalty is everything. Merit determines rank, and power should be centralized under one authority to end the endless cycle of feuding. He is less charming than Jamuka, more direct, less interested in consensus. The break comes gradually. Small disagreements accumulate. Different followers begin choosing sides. One day, while the camps are traveling together, Jamuka suggests they separate, that their horses and sheep need different pastures. Temüjin agrees and their camps split. It is presented as a practical decision, but everyone understands the partnership is over. From this point forward, they are rivals. As they prepare to part, Jamuka makes one final attempt at reconciliation. "We could still work together, you and I. We do not have to be enemies." "We will not be enemies," Temüjin says, "unless you make us enemies. You are the one breaking with tradition." "No, I am building something new." They embrace one last time, the blood brothers who will spend the next years trying to destroy each other. The steppe begins to divide. Some tribes and clans gravitate toward Jamuka, who represents continuity with tradition. Others join Temüjin, drawn by his success and his promise of a new order. In 1189 or thereabouts, the exact date contested, Temüjin's followers hold a kurultai, a formal assembly, and elect him Khan of the Borjigin Mongols. It is a significant moment. He now holds formal leadership, though his territory and power are still limited. The assembly takes place on a plain near the Onon River. Thousands gather, more followers than Temüjin expected. They bring offerings of horses and sheep, signs of allegiance. The shamans perform the rituals, burning offerings and chanting prayers. An old warrior named Mongolian stands and addresses the assembly. "We have seen what Temüjin can do. We have seen how he protects those loyal to him, how he rewards capability, how he wins battles. I say we make him Khan. Who stands with me?" The response is overwhelming. Warriors pound their fists against their chests in approval. The shamans bless the decision. Temüjin becomes Khan. Jamuka responds by forming his own coalition, drawing together tribes threatened by Temüjin's rise. The conflict escalates from political rivalry to open warfare. The first major battle occurs at Dalan Baljut. Jamuka assembles a larger force, confident in his numerical advantage. Temüjin's army is outnumbered but better coordinated, organized in the decimal system he is developing. Units of 10, 100, 1,000, breaking down tribal divisions. Despite tactical competence, Temüjin loses. Jamuka's superior numbers prevail. Temüjin's forces retreat, and Jamuka pursues. What happens next reveals the difference between the two leaders. Jamuka captures several dozen of Temüjin's men and executes them by boiling them alive in cauldrons, an act designed to terrify and demonstrate dominance. He also executes a chieftain who had supported Temüjin by dragging him behind horses. The cauldrons are set up in full view of the captured army. The victims are forced in one by one, their screams echoing across the plain. Jamuka watches without expression, making certain everyone sees what happens to those who betray the old order. But several of his own commanders are disturbed. This is not victory, it is sadism. One of them, a veteran warrior, approaches Jamuka after the executions. "This was unnecessary," he says quietly. "This was justice," Jamuka replies. "This was cruelty. And it will cost you." He's right. The brutality achieves the opposite of its intended effect. Many of Jamuka's own allies are disturbed by his cruelty. It seems excessive, dishonorable, the act of someone who fears rather than commands. Meanwhile, Temüjin treats the warriors who defect to him with respect, integrating them into his ranks, demonstrating that loyalty to him is rewarded. Over the following years, Jamuka's coalition begins to fracture. Leaders who initially supported him drift away, some joining Temüjin, some returning to independence. Jamuka's charm is not enough to overcome the perception that he is cruel and unreliable. Temüjin, meanwhile, carefully builds his power base. He maintains his alliance with Togrul Khan, now calling himself Ong Khan after receiving the title from the Jin dynasty. Togrul is aging and sees Temüjin as a useful subordinate, perhaps even a potential successor. But the steppe is never stable. In 1201, multiple tribes threatened by Temüjin's growing influence unite under a leader named Jamuka in a confederation specifically designed to destroy Temüjin. The coalition includes Merkits, Naimans, Tatars, and others. It is the most serious threat Temüjin has faced. At the Battle of Köyeten, Temüjin and Togrul face the coalition. The fighting is fierce, and at one point an arrow strikes Temüjin's horse in the neck. The horse collapses, throwing him. Blood soaks the ground. Another arrow hits Temüjin in the neck. It is not a fatal wound, but he bleeds heavily and nearly loses consciousness. The battlefield is chaos. Dust and blood mix in the air. Men scream and die. Temüjin hits the ground hard, the wind knocked from his lungs. He tries to stand, but his vision blurs. He touches his neck, and his hand comes away red. His companions carry him to safety. A warrior named Yelmi sucks the blood from the wound to clear it, staying with Temüjin through the night as he drifts in and out of fever. By morning, Temüjin recovers enough to continue fighting. Jelme stays awake the entire night, watching for enemies, tending the wound, giving Temüjin water when he can drink. When fever makes Temüjin delirious, Jelme talks to him, keeping him connected to the world. "Stay with me, my Khan. You cannot die here. We need you."
I need you. By dawn, the fever breaks. Temüjin's eyes focus on Jelme. "You saved me. You saved me first. Long ago, we are even." After the battle, they capture the warrior who shot Temüjin's horse. The man's name is Jabi. He expects execution, but instead of groveling, he stands straight and admits his action. Yes, I shot your horse. If you want revenge, kill me. If you want service, I will serve you better than any man you have. Temüjin, still weak from his wound, studies the warrior. You shot my horse? Yes, I would have shot you, but your horse moved at the wrong moment. Some of the Mongol warriors laugh at this audacity. Others call for immediate execution. Temüjin silences them with a gesture. What is your name? Jebe, you have courage and honesty.
I need men like you. Will you serve me with the same dedication you showed your previous lord? I will serve you better. He was a fool. You are not. Temüjin, who values courage and honesty, spares him and gives him a new name. Yebe, meaning arrow. Yebe becomes one of his greatest generals, leading campaigns that will stretch from Mongolia to Poland. This is a pattern that repeats throughout Temüjin's rise. He transforms enemies into allies by respecting capability and offering opportunity. The old tribal system would have demanded Jebe's death. Temüjin's new system makes room for talent, regardless of origin. The coalition forces scatter. Temüjin pursues the Tatars, the tribe that poisoned his father decades ago. He has not forgotten. When he defeats them, he orders a brutal retaliation: execute every Tatar male taller than a wagon axle. It is genocide by any modern definition, the systematic elimination of a people who resisted him. The measurement is simple and brutal. The warriors line up the Tatar captives and measure them against a wagon wheel. Those taller than the axle are separated and executed. Boys who might grow up to seek revenge are killed. It takes hours, and the killing is methodical. Temüjin watches without emotion. This is for his father. This is to ensure the Tatars can never threaten him again. This is policy, not passion. Among the Tatar captives is a young woman of exceptional beauty named Yesui. She is brought before Temüjin as part of the spoils of war. Unlike other captives, who show fear or resignation, she meets his eyes directly. There is no pleading in her gaze, no terror, only a kind of fierce pride that reminds him of his mother. "You are Tatar?" he asks. "I am," she replies. "My father was a chief. Your warriors killed him this morning, and you hate me for it." She considers the question seriously. Hate requires energy. I am tired of hating. My people spent generations hating yours hating mine. It has brought us only death. You have won. What happens now? Her pragmatism impresses him. In a world of posturing and empty rhetoric, she speaks plainly about power and survival. He takes her as a wife, and she will become one of his most trusted companions, a woman whose counsel he values as much as that of his generals, but he spares the women and children, integrating them into Mongol society. Many of them will become full members of his nation. His own mother adopts a Tatar boy named Shigi Kutuku, raising him as her own son. The boy will grow to become one of Genghis Khan's most trusted judges and administrators, helping to codify the laws of the empire. The message is clear: resist and die, submit and be absorbed. Blood feuds end not through reconciliation, but through the complete domination of one side and the absorption of the other. It is brutal, but it works. The Tatars cease to exist as a distinct people, but their descendants live on as Mongols. By 1203, Temüjin's power rivals that of his patron Togrul Khan. This creates tension. Togrul's son Sengum grows jealous and suspicious. He sees Temüjin as a threat to his own succession. He begins plotting against Temüjin, eventually convincing his father that Temüjin is becoming too powerful and must be eliminated. Sengum is perhaps 40 years old, accustomed to being his father's heir, expecting to inherit the vast Karaite confederation. But increasingly Togrul speaks of Temüjin with respect and affection, sometimes seeming to prefer his adopted son to his biological one. "He will take everything from you," Sengum tells his father. "He grows stronger every day. Soon he will not need you. Then he will destroy you and take what is yours." Togrul is conflicted. He genuinely cares for Temüjin, but he also recognizes the truth in his son's words. Power on the steppe does not allow for sentiment. Togrul, who had been Yesugei's blood brother, who had supported Temüjin's rise, agrees to betray him. They plan an ambush disguised as a feast, the same method the Tatars used to kill Yesugei, but Temüjin has informants. He learns of the plot and escapes before the trap closes. The betrayal by his surrogate father is devastating, not emotionally. Temüjin learned long ago not to trust sentiment, but strategically. Togrul controls the most powerful confederation on the steppe. Fighting him will be the greatest challenge yet. The warning comes from an unexpected source, a Karaite warrior who owes Temüjin a debt. He rides through the night to warn him. "They plan to kill you at the feast tomorrow. Sengum has convinced Togrul. They will poison you as they poisoned your father." Temüjin feels a cold fury settle over him. Another father figure, another betrayal. The pattern repeats. "Thank you," he tells the messenger. "I will remember this." Temüjin gathers his forces and prepares for war. The battle against the Karaites tests everything he has built. His army is still smaller, but it is more disciplined, more loyal, better organized. They use night attacks, coordinated movements, psychological tactics. The fighting lasts for days. Togrul's forces begin to fragment. Some Karaite leaders, seeing Temüjin's superior leadership, defect to him. Togrul himself is killed while fleeing, not by Temüjin's warriors, but by Naimans who do not recognize him. The old man dies alone, his sons scattered, his confederation dissolved. Temüjin learns of it without satisfaction. Togrul was a traitor, but also a benefactor. The world is complicated. Temüjin absorbs the Karaite confederation, integrating their warriors, craftsmen, and herds into his growing nation. The betrayal by his surrogate father has been answered with total conquest. Only the Naimans remain as a significant rival. Their Khan, Taiyang, commands a large army and controls western Mongolia. In 1204, Temüjin marches against them. At the Battle of Chakirmaut near the Altai Mountains, Temüjin employs a tactic that will become characteristic. He has each of his warriors light multiple campfires the night before battle, creating the illusion of a massive army. The Naimans, deceived, position themselves poorly. When the actual battle begins, Temüjin's forces strike with precision and overwhelming force. The Naiman scouts report back to Taiyang. The Mongol campfires stretch for miles. They have an army beyond counting. Taiyang is unnerved. How can they have so many? His advisors urge retreat, but Taiyang's pride will not allow it. "We fight tomorrow. We are Naiman. We do not run from Mongols." It is a fatal mistake. Taiyang Khan is killed. The Naiman confederation shatters. Temüjin pursues the remnants relentlessly, unwilling to leave any organized resistance capable of rebuilding. With the Naiman defeat, Temüjin controls the entire Mongolian steppe. For the first time in history, the scattered, warring Mongol tribes are united under a single leader. But there remains one loose end, Jamuka. The blood brother who became an enemy, the rival who represents everything Temüjin opposes, is still alive, still moving through the steppe with a small band of followers. Jamuka's allies, seeing that their cause is lost, eventually betray him. They bind him and bring him to Temüjin's camp, hoping for reward. Temüjin receives them coldly and asks what they have done. "We have brought you your enemy," they say proudly. "We have delivered Jamuka, bound like an animal. Surely this deserves great reward." Temüjin looks at them with contempt. You betrayed your lord. You bound the man you swore to follow. What makes you think I would reward treachery? He orders their immediate execution. Loyalty, even loyalty to his enemies, is worth more than opportunistic betrayal. Those who would betray Jamuka would just as easily betray him. Then he orders Jamuka brought before him. The two men, once blood brothers, once allies, enemies for decades, face each other for the final time. Jamuka is bound but unbroken, his pride intact despite his defeat. So it ends, Jamuka says. You have won everything. The steppe is yours. The tribes bow to you. I am the last piece of the old order, and now you will sweep me away too. I could, Temüjin acknowledges, or I could offer you what I have offered others. Serve me. Advise me. Your skills are valuable. We could be brothers again, in truth, this time. It is a genuine offer. Despite everything, despite the battles and the bloodshed, there is still some part of Temüjin that remembers the boy who swore brotherhood under the open sky. But Jamuka shakes his head. No, I cannot serve you. I cannot watch you build this new world, while everything I believed in turns to dust. We chose different paths long ago. Mine has led here. I will not betray myself at the end. Then what do you want? Death without spilling blood. That is the honorable way. Let me die as a warrior, not as a criminal. Give me that much, for the sake of what we once were. Death without spilling blood is a Mongol tradition reserved for nobility. To be strangled or to have one's back broken so that the blood stays within the body and the spirit is not dishonored. It is a mercy of sorts. Temüjin grants it. Jamuka is executed in the traditional manner, his body buried with honors. The blood brothers' story ends not in reconciliation, but in mutual respect for the paths each chose. Years later, when Genghis Khan is old and tired, he will sometimes think of Jamuka and wonder what might have been if they had stayed together. But he never regrets the choice. The path he chose brought unity. Jamuka's path would have kept the steppe divided forever. Some friendships cannot survive the weight of history. In 1206, the various tribal leaders gather for a great Kurultai on the banks of the Onon River. It is a formal assembly that will determine the future of the Mongol nation. The question is not whether Temüjin will lead, but what title he will take and what kind of state he will build. The gathering is unprecedented. Thousands of Gurs spread across the plains, tens of thousands of warriors, their families, their herds, delegations from every tribe that now swears allegiance to Temüjin. The shamans perform elaborate rituals, burning offerings and calling on the eternal blue sky to bless what they are creating. The shamans perform rituals, the leaders make speeches, and then Temüjin is proclaimed Genghis Khan, a title whose exact meaning is debated, universal ruler, or oceanic ruler, but whose significance is clear. He is no longer merely a tribal Khan, he is an emperor. The ceremony takes place at dawn. The white horsehair standard is raised, the symbol of his authority. The assembled warriors strike their chests in salute. The name echoes across the plain. Genghis Khan, Genghis Khan. He stands before them, this man who was abandoned as a child, who survived starvation and slavery, who killed his way to power. He looks out at the army he has built, the nation he has forged, and permits himself a moment of satisfaction, but only a moment. There is so much yet to do. The first thing Genghis Khan does is formalize the system he has been building. He establishes the Yasa, a code of laws that will govern the Mongol Empire. These laws cover everything: property rights, marriage, theft, religious tolerance, and above all, loyalty. The penalty for betraying one's lord is death. The penalty for desertion is death. Loyalty is not optional. It is the foundation of the entire social order. He divides the army into units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000, commanded by officers chosen for capability. Tribal affiliations are deliberately broken up. A unit of 100 might contain warriors from 5 different clans. This destroys the old tribal structure that led to constant feuding and replaces it with unified military organization. He creates an elite guard of 10,000 warriors, the Keshik, drawn from the sons of commanders and the most capable fighters. They serve in rotation, learning administration and warfare, becoming the future leadership of the empire. Serving in the Keshik is an honor, but it is also a hostage system. Commanders know that their sons' lives depend on their own loyalty. He establishes a postal relay system, the Yam, that will eventually stretch across the empire, allowing messages to travel faster than any previous system. Riders stationed at intervals can carry urgent communications hundreds of miles per day. He proclaims religious tolerance. Shamans, Buddhists, Christians, Muslims, all are permitted to practice freely. This is partly pragmatic, reducing resistance from conquered peoples, but it also reflects Genghis Khan's fundamental indifference to theological questions. He is interested in loyalty and capability, not doctrine. One day, a delegation of religious leaders from various faiths comes before him, each arguing that their religion is the true path and should be favored by the Khan. The Buddhist monk speaks of enlightenment and the end of suffering. The Muslim imam quotes the Quran and speaks of submission to God's will. The Christian priest talks of salvation through Christ. The Taoist sage discusses harmony with the natural order. The shamanistic elder invokes the spirits of the ancestors and the eternal blue sky. Genghis Khan listens to all of them, then delivers his judgment. You each claim your path is the only true path, but I have seen men of every faith fight bravely and die with honor. I have seen men of every faith lie and betray. The truth is not in your rituals or your books. The truth is in how a man conducts himself. Be loyal, be brave, be useful to the empire. Worship as you wish, but do not presume to tell others their worship is wrong. The eternal blue sky covers all of us equally. It is a radical position for the time. In an era when Christian Europe burns heretics and Muslim caliphates impose religious law, the Mongol Empire becomes a haven of tolerance. Jewish merchants, Christian monks, Muslim scholars, and Buddhist teachers all move freely through Mongol lands, protected by law. He grants tax exemptions to religious leaders and scholars, ensuring that learning and spirituality are protected. Libraries and schools are spared when cities fall. Doctors and astronomers and mathematicians are given honored positions regardless of their faith or origin. He forbids the kidnapping of women and the enslavement of Mongols, crimes that had plagued the steppe for generations. Women in the Mongol Empire have property rights, can divorce, can own businesses. It is not equality by modern standards, but it is far more progressive than most contemporary societies. He creates a written script for the Mongolian language, adapting the Uyghur alphabet. For the first time, the Mongols can record their own history, their laws, their stories. What was oral tradition becomes codified knowledge. He establishes a Supreme Court system with judges drawn from capable administrators regardless of tribal origin. Decisions are based on the yasa, applied equally to noble and commoner. In theory, at least, justice is blind to status. In practice, power still influences outcomes, but the principle is revolutionary. All of this represents a revolutionary transformation. The old steppe order was anarchic, tribal, and based on blood hierarchy. The new order is centralized, meritocratic, and based on law. Genghis Khan has taken the lessons of his childhood, the betrayals and abandonments, and created a system designed to prevent them. But unification of the Mongol tribes is only the beginning. The steppe cannot support a population that is no longer fighting itself. Warriors need enemies, need plunder, need purpose. And Genghis Khan has ambitions that extend far beyond the grasslands. To the south lies the Western Xia Kingdom, a Tangut state that controls important sections of the Silk Road. They have been paying tribute to the Mongols, but inconsistently, disrespectfully. In 1209, Genghis Khan leads an army against them. The Western Xia envoy had been dismissive when demanding tribute. The Western Xia owes nothing to steppe barbarians. The envoy's head was sent back with a message, "We are coming." The Western Xia are a settled civilization with fortified cities. The Mongols are nomadic warriors, skilled at fighting in open terrain. Siege warfare is not their strength. Initially, they struggle to take walled cities, but Genghis Khan is nothing if not adaptive. He captures engineers and craftsmen, learns from them, integrates their knowledge. At the city of Volahai, the Mongols divert a river to flood the defences. At other cities, they use prisoners as human shields to protect siege engines. They learn to use catapults, siege towers, explosive powder acquired from Chinese defectors. The engineers are given a choice: serve and live, or refuse and die. Most choose survival. Genghis Khan treats them well, better than their previous rulers in many cases. He values expertise and is willing to pay for it. Western Xia submits and becomes a vassal state, required to provide troops and tribute. The campaign proves that the Mongol army can conquer settled civilizations, not just rival nomads. Next is the Jin dynasty, the powerful state that controls northern China. The Jin have been playing Mongol tribes against each other for generations, ensuring the steppe remains divided and weak. Genghis Khan has not forgotten this manipulation. In 1211, he invades with an army of perhaps 90,000 warriors, though numbers from this period are unreliable. The Jin field far larger armies, but the Mongols have superior mobility and coordination. They strike supply lines, isolate garrisons, avoid pitched battles when disadvantageous. The campaign lasts years. The Jin fortifications are formidable, the population massive, the resistance fierce. But Genghis Khan is patient and ruthless. Cities that resist are destroyed as examples. Cities that surrender are spared. Their populations integrated, their administrators kept in place. At the siege of Juyong Pass, the Jin defenders hold for months. The pass is defended by massive walls and natural cliffs. The Mongols lose thousands trying to take it. Finally, Genghis Khan sends a small force to circle around through mountains that the Jin believed impassable. They attack from the rear while the main army assaults the front. The defenders, caught between two forces, collapse. In 1215, the Mongol army captures Zhongdu, the Jin capital, modern Beijing. The city is sacked, and the wealth accumulated over centuries is carried back to Mongolia on thousands of carts. The Jin dynasty retreats south to Kaifeng, but their power is broken. The conquest of northern China transforms the Mongol Empire. Suddenly, Genghis Khan controls not just grasslands but agricultural regions, cities, trade routes. He gains access to Chinese bureaucracy, technology, and wealth. Mongol nobles who lived in, felt tense now rule over millions of settled subjects. Genghis Khan appoints administrators to govern the conquered territories, often using local Chinese officials who understand how to manage complex agricultural societies. The Mongol policy is pragmatic. If you have expertise, we will use you. If you resist, we will destroy you. The army that emerges from the China campaigns is more sophisticated than the one that entered. They have absorbed siege engineering, gunpowder technology, logistical systems. They have learned to administer conquered populations rather than simply plundering them. By 1218, the Mongol Empire stretches from Korea to the borders of the Khwarezmian Empire, which controls much of Central Asia and Persia. Genghis Khan does not initially intend to invade the Khwarezmian Empire. He sends a trade caravan of several hundred merchants, accompanied by a diplomatic envoy, to establish commercial relations. The caravan carries silk, jade, furs, and gold. It is a gesture of goodwill, an offer of mutually beneficial trade. Genghis Khan is not interested in conquering the entire world, only in securing his borders and establishing profitable relationships. The governor of the border city of Otrar, a man named Inalchuk, accuses the caravan of being spies and executes the entire group, seizing their goods. It is an act of staggering stupidity or arrogance, or both. Inalchuk is greedy and paranoid. He sees the wealth of the caravan and decides to take it. He convinces himself that they are spies, that he is protecting his ruler. In reality, he is starting a war that will destroy his entire civilization. Genghis Khan sends an embassy to Shah Muhammad II, the Khwarezmian ruler, demanding that Inalchuk be turned over for punishment. It is a reasonable request by diplomatic standards, a way to resolve the incident without war. Shah Muhammad, either underestimating the Mongols or protecting his governor, refuses. He kills one of the ambassadors and sends the others back with their beards burned off, a calculated insult. When the surviving ambassadors return and report what happened, Genghis Khan's advisors watch him carefully. His face shows no emotion, but those who know him recognize the danger in his stillness. "Prepare the army," he says quietly. "We ride west." Genghis Khan's response is methodical. He assembles an army of approximately 100,000, though again, exact numbers are disputed. He organizes the invasion with meticulous planning, gathering intelligence on geography, defenses, and political divisions within the Khwarezmian Empire. In 1219, the Mongol army crosses into Khwarezmian territory. What follows is one of the most devastating military campaigns in history. The Khwarezmian Empire is wealthy, populous, and defended by fortified cities. Shah Muhammad commands armies that on paper outnumber the Mongols. But he makes a fatal strategic error. He divides his forces among the major cities rather than concentrating them for decisive battle. The Mongols, meanwhile, operate with unified command. Genghis Khan divides his army into multiple columns that advance in coordination. Using the YAM system to maintain communication across vast distances, they attack multiple cities simultaneously, preventing reinforcement. At Otrar, where the caravan was killed, the Mongols conduct a siege that lasts months. When the city finally falls, Inalchuk is executed by having molten silver poured into his eyes and ears, a symbolic punishment for his greed and folly. Inalchuk is dragged before Genghis Khan. The governor who started this war with his greed and stupidity now faces the consequences. He begs for mercy, offers wealth, promises loyalty. Genghis Khan watches him without expression. "You killed my merchants for silver. Now you will have all the silver you desire." The execution is public. The entire army watches. It is a message. This is the cost of betraying Genghis Khan. At Bukhara, one of the great cultural centers of the Islamic world, the Mongols arrive before the defenders expect them, having crossed supposedly impassable terrain. The garrison attempts to break out and is annihilated. The city surrenders. Genghis Khan enters the main mosque and declares, in a statement recorded by Persian chroniclers, that he is the punishment of God sent to chastise the people for their sins. The mosque is magnificent, one of the greatest achievements of Islamic architecture. Genghis Khan rides his horse into the sacred space, something that horrifies the gathered citizens. He dismounts, looks around at the grandeur, and addresses the assembled leaders. "I am the punishment of God," he tells them. "If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me." Whether he believes this or is simply using their theology against them, no one knows. But the effect is profound. Many interpret the Mongol invasion as divine judgment, which reduces resistance. The city's scholars, artisans, and administrators are spared. The young men are conscripted into the Mongol army for future campaigns. The rest of the population is forced to fill the moat and dismantle fortifications. Bukhara is looted, but not massacred. At Samarkand, the Mongols employ psychological warfare. They parade captured soldiers before the walls, displaying their helplessness. They use siege engines constructed by captured engineers. The city holds out for days, but eventually the inner defences are breached. The governor and his garrison make a final stand and are slaughtered. The civilian population is assessed for usefulness. Craftsmen are sent to Mongolia. Scholars are spared. The rest are conscripted or dispersed. The siege lasts 5 days. The walls are thick and well defended, but the Mongols attack relentlessly, day and night, giving the defenders no rest. They use catapults to hurl burning materials over the walls. They undermine sections of the wall with tunneling. When the walls finally breach, the defenders make a desperate last stand in the citadel. It is hopeless. They are exhausted, outnumbered and demoralized. The slaughter is efficient and brutal. Shah Muhammad flees rather than fighting. He abandons his empire and runs west, pursued by 2 of Genghis Khan's best generals, Jebe and Subutai. They chase him across Persia with 20,000 cavalry, moving faster than any army has moved before, covering distances that seem impossible. The chase becomes legendary. Jebe and Subutai pursue the Shah for thousands of miles through deserts and mountains, always just behind him. Muhammad cannot stop, cannot rest, cannot gather forces to oppose them. He runs until he can run no further. Muhammad dies on an island in the Caspian Sea, possibly from pneumonia, possibly from despair. His empire disintegrates. His son, Jalal ad-Din, attempts to rally resistance, but is defeated repeatedly. At the Battle of the Indus River in 1281, Jalal ad-Din's army is destroyed. He escapes by plunging his horse off a cliff into the river and swimming to the opposite bank, an act of such spectacular courage that Genghis Khan, watching from the shore, orders his men not to pursue. He reportedly says that any father should hope for a son like that. Genghis Khan watches the prince disappear into the river and nods slowly. That one has the spirit of a warrior. His father should have stood and fought instead of running. Perhaps the son would have made a better Shah. But respect for individual courage does not mean mercy for resistance. Cities that defied the Mongols are systematically destroyed. At Nishapur, where a Mongol prince was killed during the siege, the city is razed so completely that it is said every living thing, even dogs and cats, is slaughtered. The skulls are arranged in pyramids, separated by gender. Persian chroniclers describe the destruction in apocalyptic terms. The destruction of Nishapur takes weeks. It is not done in the heat of battle, but as methodical policy. Every building is dismantled, every person is executed. The pyramids of skulls serve as warnings to other cities. This is the price of resistance. Modern historians debate the death tolls. Medieval chronicles claim millions killed, entire regions depopulated. Contemporary scholarship suggests these numbers are exaggerated, that chroniclers inflated figures to explain their defeats or dramatize the horror. But even conservative estimates acknowledge massive loss of life. Cities that resisted were made examples. The Mongol policy was explicit. Resist and be destroyed, surrender and be integrated. The Khwarezmian campaign lasts from 1219 to 1221, 2 years in which the Mongol army conquers an empire that took centuries to build. The speed and thoroughness of the conquest shocks the medieval world. Persian, Arabic and European chroniclers struggle to explain what happened. Some frame it as divine punishment. Some blame the moral weakness of the defeated. Some simply record the catastrophe without interpretation. Meanwhile, Jebe and Subutai, having chased Shah Muhammad to his death, do not return immediately. With Genghis Khan's permission, they continue west on what amounts to an extended reconnaissance mission. They ride through the Caucasus, defeat Georgian and Armenian armies, and emerge into the southern Russian steppe. There they encounter the Cumans, a Turkic nomadic people, and the Rus principalities. The Cumans and Rus form an alliance to face this unknown threat. In 1223, at the Battle of the Kalka River, the Mongol force of perhaps 20,000 faces a Rus-Cuman army several times larger. The Mongols use their standard tactics: feigned retreat, divided opponents, coordinated strikes. The Rus and Cuman forces are destroyed. Princes are captured and executed by being crushed beneath a wooden platform on which the Mongol commanders feast, a grotesque display of contempt. The Rus's princes are tied and placed on the ground. A wooden platform is placed over them. Then Jebe, Subutai, and the other Mongol commanders sit on the platform and eat and drink, while the princes slowly suffocate beneath them. It is both execution and statement. You are beneath us in every sense. Then Jebe and Subutai returned to Mongolia, having circled the Caspian Sea, gathered intelligence on dozens of kingdoms, and demonstrated that the Mongol army can defeat any opponent. The expedition serves as reconnaissance for future invasions that will carry the Mongols into Poland and Hungary. Genghis Khan is now in his 60s. He controls an empire larger than any previous conqueror, but he is not finished. The Western Xia, his vassal state, has failed to provide troops for the Khwarezmian campaign. This is betrayal, and Genghis Khan does not forgive betrayal. In 1227, he leads a final campaign against Western Xia. His generals advise against it. He is old. The Western Xia are already defeated in practice. The campaign is unnecessary, but Genghis Khan is motivated by principle, not pragmatism. They broke their oath. They will pay. "You are too old for this," Subutai tells him bluntly. "Let someone else lead. Rest. Enjoy what you have built." Genghis Khan looks at his old friend and shakes his head. "I will rest when I am dead." They swore an oath. They broke it. If I allow this, others will think they can break their oaths. No. We finish this. During the campaign, something happens. The exact event is lost to history. Genghis Khan is wounded, or falls from his horse, or contracts an illness. The sources contradict each other. What is clear is that his health deteriorates rapidly. Some sources say he fell from his horse during a hunt. Others say he was wounded in battle. Still others suggest illness. The truth is deliberately obscured because admitting weakness is dangerous. He gives orders that his death should be kept secret until the campaign is complete and the Western Xia capital is destroyed. He wants no chance for enemies to take advantage of the moment of succession. In August 1227, somewhere in the mountains of northwestern China, Genghis Khan dies. He is approximately 65 years old. The boy who was abandoned to starve, who killed his half-brother for food, who was enslaved and escaped, who unified the steppe and conquered half of Eurasia, dies in a military camp. Still on campaign, his final words, according to some accounts, are instructions for completing the campaign and ensuring the succession. He does not speak of regrets or legacy. He speaks of practical matters, of what must be done. Keep my death secret, complete the campaign, destroy the Western Xia, then announce my death and ensure Ögedei takes the throne. This is my will. His body is transported back to Mongolia in secret. The escort kills anyone who sees the procession. Hundreds, possibly thousands, are slaughtered to ensure the burial location remains hidden. He is interred somewhere near Burkhan Khaldun, the sacred mountain of his birth, in an unmarked grave that has never been found despite 8 centuries of searching. The funeral procession winds through the mountains, moving only at night. Anyone who sees it dies, shepherds, travelers, entire villages. The escort is merciless. The location must remain secret. When they reach the burial site, the most loyal warriors dig the grave. Then they too are killed, so that no one living knows where the universal ruler rests. The earth swallows him, and the grass grows over the site, and within months it is indistinguishable from the surrounding steppe. The Western Xia capital falls as ordered. The population is massacred, the kingdom erased. It is a final demonstration that breaking faith with Genghis Khan has only one consequence. Before his death, Genghis Khan divided the empire among his sons. Yochi, the son whose paternity was always questioned, had died earlier in 1227, possibly before his father, possibly by his father's order. The sources are unclear and possibly deliberately obscured. The death of Yochi is mysterious. Some sources say he died of illness. Others hint at assassination ordered by Genghis Khan himself, who may have finally decided that the question of paternity was too dangerous to the succession. The truth is lost. But the tensions within the family were real and bitter. Chagatai, the second son, never accepted Jochi as legitimate. At a council to discuss succession, he openly challenged his older brother. "How can a bastard inherit?" Chagatai demanded. "How can the son of a merkid dog rule over the descendants of Genghis Khan?" Yochi lunged at him, hands reaching for Chagatai's throat. "Say that again, say it again, and I will kill you." The brothers had to be physically separated by their attendants. Genghis Khan watched in fury and despair. He had unified the steppe, conquered empires, created a new world order. But he could not make his own sons love each other. "Enough!" he roared. "You disgrace me! You disgrace yourselves! While you fight over inheritance like children squabbling over toys, the empire requires leadership." He turned to Ögedei, the third son. "You will be great Khan after me. You are neither the eldest nor the youngest, but you are wise enough to listen to counsel and strong enough to make decisions. Can you do this?" Ögedei, surprised, bowed. "I will serve as you command, father." "And you too," Genghis Khan looked at Yochi and Chagatai with cold contempt, "will support your brother, or you will answer to me in this life and the next. Do you understand?" They understood, but the resentments remained, poison waiting to corrupt the empire after its founder's death. Chagatai receives Central Asia. Ögedei, the third son, is designated Great Khan, the supreme ruler. Tolui, the youngest, inherits the Mongolian heartland and the main army, the traditional inheritance of the youngest son in Mongol culture. Each son also receives vast territories and tens of thousands of subject households. The divisions are not equal, and they plant the seeds of future conflicts, but the immediate succession is smooth. Ögedei is proclaimed Great Khan in 1229 and continues the expansion, conquering the Jin dynasty completely and launching invasions into Russia and Europe. Ögedei proves to be a capable, if less brilliant, ruler than his father. He completes the conquest of the Jin dynasty. He establishes the Mongol capital at Karakoram, transforming what was a seasonal gathering place into a permanent city with palaces, temples, and workshops. He continues the invasions into Russia, destroying Kiev and pushing into Poland and Hungary, reaching the gates of Vienna before turning back. But Ögedei also has his father's weakness. He drinks too much. Genghis Khan had warned him about this, had made him promise to limit his drinking. Ögedei tries reducing his intake, but eventually the vodka and wine destroy him. He dies in 1241, possibly from alcohol-related illness, and his death saves Western Europe from Mongol conquest. The armies withdraw for the succession crisis, and they never return with the same force. The empire Genghis Khan created will last for more than a century before fragmenting into separate khanates. At its peak under his grandson Kublai Khan, it will stretch from the Pacific to Eastern Europe, from Siberia to Southeast Asia, encompassing roughly 1/4 of the world's land area and population. Kublai Khan, born after Genghis Khan's death, inherits the mantle of leadership in a changed world. He completes the conquest of China, overthrowing the Song dynasty and establishing the Yuan dynasty. He becomes emperor of China, ruling from Beijing, but he never forgets his Mongol heritage. He employs Chinese bureaucrats but reserves the highest positions for Mongols. He adapts to Chinese culture while maintaining Mongol military supremacy. Under Kublai, the Mongol Empire reaches its cultural zenith, His court becomes legendary, attracting scholars, merchants, and adventurers from across the known world. Marco Polo, the Venetian merchant, spends 17 years in Kublai's service and returns to Europe with tales so extraordinary that many believe he is lying. But he is not lying. The Mongol Empire at its peak is more cosmopolitan, more technologically advanced, more open to foreign ideas than any contemporary European kingdom. The Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace, enables unprecedented trade and cultural exchange across Eurasia. The Silk Road reaches its greatest extent. Technologies, ideas, and goods flow from China to Europe. Paper, printing, gunpowder, and the compass spread westward. Persian and Islamic science travels eastward. A merchant from Italy can travel to China, conduct business, and return home with relative safety, something unthinkable before the Mongol conquests. The yam system provides accommodations and fresh horses at regular intervals. Mongol law protects merchants from arbitrary taxation and theft. Trade flourishes on a scale not seen again until the modern era. Merchants travel from Venice to Beijing and back, something impossible before the Mongol conquests. Ideas circulate with unprecedented freedom. The world becomes more connected than it has ever been. Chinese porcelain appears in European markets. Persian miniatures influence Chinese painting. Indian mathematics spreads to both East and West. The world, for a brief historical moment, is truly global. But this golden age of connectivity comes at an unimaginable cost. The same trade routes that carry silk and spices also carry disease. But the Mongol conquests also facilitate the spread of disease. The Black Death, which will kill perhaps 1/3 of Europe's population in the 14th century, likely travels along Mongol trade routes from Central Asia. The plague emerges from the steppes of Asia, possibly from marmot populations that Mongols hunt for food. It spreads through Mongol armies, through the trade routes they protect, through the interconnected world they created. In 1346, Mongol forces besieging the Genoese trading post of Kaffa catapult plague-infected corpses over the walls, perhaps the first recorded use of biological warfare. The Genoese flee by ship, carrying the plague to Constantinople, to Venice, to Sicily. From there it spreads across Europe like wildfire. Within 5 years, the Black Death kills between 75 and 200 million people across Eurasia. Entire villages are depopulated, cities lose half their inhabitants. The economic and social order of medieval Europe collapses and must be rebuilt. Some historians argue that the Black Death, by creating labor shortages and destroying the old feudal order, inadvertently creates the conditions for the Renaissance and the modern world. If this is true, then Genghis Khan's legacy is even more profound than conquest and empire. The world he connected through violence and trade becomes the world in which plague travels freely, and the plague reshapes civilization as thoroughly as any army. The genetic legacy is equally dramatic. Modern DNA studies suggest that Genghis Khan and his male line descendants have approximately 16 million living descendants, roughly 0.5% of the world's male population. The combination of polygamy and political power concentrated reproductive success in a way rarely matched in history. Genghis Khan had many wives and concubines, though Berta remained his primary wife and the mother of his heirs. His sons and grandsons continued the practice, taking multiple wives from conquered peoples. For several generations, being descended from Genghis Khan was the ultimate claim to legitimacy and power. Mongol nobility competed to prove their lineage back to the great Khan. This genetic bottleneck, where one man's descendants multiply exponentially while others die out, is visible in modern populations across Asia. From Mongolia to Pakistan, from Russia to Korea, the genetic signature of Genghis Khan and his male line descendants appears with remarkable frequency. In reproductive success, as in conquest, Genghis Khan achieved what no other human has matched. In Mongolia, Genghis Khan is a national hero, the founder of the nation, a symbol of unity and strength. His image appears on currency, monuments, public buildings. The international airport is named for him. In countries conquered by the Mongols, the legacy is more complicated. Persian chronicles describe the invasions as catastrophic. Russian historical memory frames the Mongol period as the dark centuries. Chinese historiography has alternated between condemning the Mongols as barbarian invaders and claiming them as part of Chinese imperial tradition. Western European accounts, influenced by reports from travelers like Marco Polo and from Rus refugees, portray the Mongols as the ultimate barbarian threat, the apocalyptic scourge. Modern scholarship has begun revising these narratives, examining Mongol administration, trade policies, legal codes, and religious tolerance. Historians like Jack Weatherford have argued that Genghis Khan facilitated globalization, spread innovations, and created systems of governance that were in some ways more advanced than contemporary European feudalism. Other historians push back, noting that revisionism can go too far, that the mass killings were real, that conquest and occupation created genuine suffering that should not be minimized for the sake of a more balanced narrative. The truth, as always, is complex. Genghis Khan was both destroyer and creator, both mass killer and administrator, both brutal warlord and visionary state builder. What cannot be disputed is the sheer scale of what he accomplished. He began as an orphan with no resources, no allies, no prospects. He ended as the ruler of the largest contiguous land empire in human history. The transformation required extraordinary military genius, political skill, and ruthless determination. It also required a willingness to break every rule, to abandon every tradition that stood in his way, to create a new social order based on principles that contradicted the entire structure of the world he was born into. The tribal aristocracy said that leadership belonged to those of noble blood. Genghis Khan said leadership belongs to those who prove capable. The steppe tradition said that blood feuds and tribal rivalries were eternal. Genghis Khan said that all Mongols are one nation under one law. The settled civilization said that nomadic barbarians were inferior and could be manipulated. Genghis Khan proved that disciplined nomadic cavalry could conquer any fortress and rule any population. Every step of his rise contradicted what the world believed possible. And because he succeeded, he transformed what was possible. But the cost was extraordinary. The chronicles speak of cities erased, populations massacred, cultures destroyed. The pyramids of skulls, the refugees fleeing across continents, the deliberate targeting of intellectual and administrative elites to break resistance. Genghis Khan believed that resistance to his rule was the only crime that mattered. Surrender and you could live, even prosper. Resist and you would be obliterated, your city turned to rubble, your name forgotten. This was not mindless violence, it was calculated policy designed to minimize future resistance. One city destroyed completely discourages 10 others from fighting. The terror was a weapon as important as the cavalry. We return now to the plateau where we began. The dying emperor on horseback, the secret death, the hidden burial. Now you understand what that moment represents. Genghis Khan created an empire, but he could not escape mortality. The boy who survived abandonment, who killed his brother, who escaped slavery, who unified tribes through force and vision, who conquered kingdoms and redrew maps, who made the steppe people masters of settled civilizations, still died like every other human. But he died having transformed the world. The Mongol invasions reshaped demographics, destroyed old political orders, created new trade networks, spread technologies and ideas. The genetic and cultural legacy persists 8 centuries later. The question that remains is not whether Genghis Khan was good or evil. Those categories are inadequate for historical figures who operated in contexts so different from our own. The question is what his life demonstrates about human capability and cost. He demonstrated that individual will, combined with ruthless focus and adaptive intelligence, can reshape civilizations, that the accidents of birth can be overcome by determination and skill, that loyalty, Even artificial loyalty enforced by law and reward can create cohesion more powerful than blood kinship. He also demonstrated that greatness measured in conquest requires atrocity, that building an empire means destroying what existed before, that transforming society means breaking the people who benefit from the old order. The boy abandoned on the steppe learned that the world has no mercy for the weak, and he structured his entire life around ensuring he would never be weak again. In the process, he became the most powerful man on earth. But the wound of abandonment never healed. The obsession with loyalty, the inability to forgive betrayal, the need for absolute control, all of it flows from that 9-year-old watching his clan ride away. That moment defined everything. Every decision, every law, every conquest can be traced back to the lesson learned in abandonment. You can only trust what you control. You can only control what you dominate. And you must never ever be weak enough for others to abandon you again. Genghis Khan is buried somewhere beneath the Mongolian steppe in an unmarked grave that his followers died to conceal. The earth covers him as it covers all human ambition eventually. But the empire he created, the systems he established, the genetic and cultural legacy he left, those endure. He wanted to be remembered. He wanted his name to echo across generations. He wanted to prove that the abandoned child mattered, that the outcast could become the center of the world. In that, at least, he succeeded completely. 800 years later, we are still trying to understand him, still arguing about what he represents, still grappling with the enormity of what he accomplished and what it cost. The orphan who built the greatest empire did not do it through nobility or virtue. He did it through intelligence, discipline, ruthlessness, and an absolute refusal to accept the limitations that the world tried to place on him. Whether that makes him a hero or a villain depends on where you stand, but it undeniably makes him one of the most consequential human beings who ever lived. And perhaps that is the final lesson of Genghis Khan's life, that human potential is far greater than we imagine, both for creation and destruction. That one person, starting from nothing, can reshape the world. That the greatest achievements often come at the greatest costs. That the line between visionary and monster is thinner than we would like to believe. The boy, clutching a blood clot in his fist, was born to spill blood. The shamans were right, but they could not have imagined how much blood, how many empires, how completely one abandoned child would remake the world. Today, scholars and historians continue to debate Genghis Khan's true nature. Was he a genocidal tyrant whose conquests left mountains of skulls and rivers of blood? Yes. Was he a brilliant administrator who created systems of governance, law, and religious tolerance ahead of his time? Also, yes. Was he a visionary who unified disparate peoples into a functioning empire? Undeniably. Was he a monster who destroyed civilizations and slaughtered millions? The evidence is overwhelming. These contradictions cannot be reconciled because they are all true. Genghis Khan was not one thing or the other. He was everything all at once, operating at a scale and intensity that defies simple moral categorization. He was the ultimate expression of human ambition, unrestrained by conscience or convention, driven by wounds that never healed and a determination that never wavered. The grass still grows on the Mongolian steppe. The wind still blows across endless horizons. Somewhere beneath that grass, unmarked and undiscovered, lies the body of the man who changed everything. The earth keeps its secret, but the world he created, for better and worse, is still with us. We are all, in some sense, living in the shadow of the orphan who refused to die.